Okay, call to order, Charlotte Select Board meeting, Monday, March 12th, at the Charlotte Town Hall. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
The minutes for March 5th were done after the agenda was set, so you could review them.
Okay,
And there are a few things under updates that I'll probably ask you
Okay.
about.
I think Christine asked me to clarify the town health officer
oh, stipend,
payroll stipend issue, and I think we should do that
okay,
at some point in the meeting
yep.
with an official answer.
Health officer benefit, yeah. And we can do those during updates. Are there public comments? So we could do that right now. So we're at select board updates, and you're waiting for Ken Spencer to come in as well, or you coming independently?
He's coming.
Okay. Well, it's for quarter after, so we'll wait a few minutes.
Oh, okay. And, yeah, great.
So do you want to explain the
Well,
health
as-
officer
As
benefit?
I recall our conversation, I guess it was either during the revised job description or budget that we said the health officer would be included with the payroll for the town administrator we just hired,
Yes, Aaron.
Aaron. Zoning administrator, excuse me. And that the remaining in the budget would just be returned to the general fund.
I remember it the same way.
So I guess we didn't tell the payroll people that in a clear enough fashion, so I guess it's a motion to let the minutes reflect what we said previously, that the,
Right, I think there was a discussion on the pay because of, if they got 40 hours a week and they got a stipend, that it would
yeah, well,
conflict.
you can't
with
have,
pay.
you can't pay someone a stipend and a payroll. The government doesn't let that. If you're a payroll, everything has to be reported. Otherwise, you'd have a big stipend and a tiny payroll, and the town wouldn't have to pay a lot of taxes.
Right, so we rolled it into the job.
So
So,
go ahead.
I'll make a motion to clarify that the position of town health officer is indeed included in the zoning administrator's job and included in his payroll, and any remaining funds for the stipend of health officer be returned to the general fund.
Second.
Okay. That's clear, right? I mean, that's the way I understand it too. Any comments from anybody? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have a short set of minutes here, which are the Monday before town meeting. We had a couple of questions. So is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 5th?
So moved.
Okay? Everybody good to vote?
Sure.
All in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Are there any other updates for the select board?
I had two, and I'm not quite sure whether they're updates or questions, whether you want them to be on a future agenda. The Lake Champlain Committee has in the past, they have what they call a canoe trail or a trail around the lake where people from the lake can stop at various places, and the Charlotte Beach is identified in their materials as a place where people can stop. It's not camping or anything, but so they've asked whether we want to have that in their brochure again. If yeah, there's a handout on the table from them. So the question is, what they have come to past select board meetings each year for the past 4 or 5 years, whether you want them to come back or whether you want it to approve it administratively either tonight or on another agenda.
So what they do is say that Charlotte is a beach for them to bring canoes and kayaks, and it's been in their little booklet, they hand out a couple. I think we have one in our stand here, so seems to me it's appropriate just to allow them to continue. It doesn't really have any impact.
Agree.
You want to make do we need to have a warrant, or can we make a motion? Or,
It can't hurt to have a motion just to.
so, doesn't somebody make a motion, and that way,
Motion to approve the inclusion of the Charlotte Town Beach into the Lake Champlain, what do they call themselves?
Paddler's Trail,
Paddler's Trail Publication
yeah.
Committee, whatever
Handbook.
they, handbook.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on that?
Just to let you know, I did ask Bill Fraser Harris and Nicole about it. They're both fine with it. The only comment they made is that the bathhouse is open at 10 o'clock, not 8 o'clock, so I will let the committee know about that in terms of their.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
And the only other one item is on the table is a handout about an award that was awarded, I think her name is Grace Slaughterbeck?
Slaughterbeck, yes.
And there was a suggestion that there be, a recognition of that by the select board.
Do we want to invite her to come to a meeting and spend 2 minutes and
You could?
tell her what she has done, and we could recognize her that way?
Okay.
She's what age group is she?
Actually, I'm not sure. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. So why don't we do that?
Okay.
Do it more formally.
She's an
Everybody.
amazing singer, too.
She's what?
She's an amazing singer. She sang the national anthem for
Oh, really?
our senior night.
Okay, yeah, let's recognize it. Okay. Another thing, there's been some emails. Peter Troner is our internal auditor, and he's questioning our process on the warning that we voted on at town meeting regarding bids for the 2 generators that were approved. And Fritz, you suggest if he wants to discuss it, we can just put it on the agenda here. Is that the best way to do it?
I think so. I think
I
the
mean,
board members should hear. I mean, it's,
we got bids, it's not final, but we got an estimate, and
when it finally passes, if it does,
Yeah.
Then we'll get 3 bids.
We'll follow the purchasing policy to the letter.
so if he responds, we'll put him on the agenda at a future date. Okay, everybody on board?
After the money's been approved.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, after April 3rd, that's a good point, after April 3rd. So and he wants to know about the process for the air packs, so it's Articles 4, 5, and 6. The air packs. What was the second one?
The recreation.
Recreation and the generators. So if he wants to talk about it.
Does he want those before April 3rd or not? I don't know.
No point in doing it before April 3rd because you don't know if you can spend the money.
Only
And
the.
okay.
We don't
only-
have 3 bids. We have budget information.
Yep.
Right.
Well, let's see what he says. We'll say after
Sure.
it gets approved and see if that is acceptable to him. Okay. Anything else on updates? We're on schedule. Kim and Ken, is that right? Yes. Kim and Ken.
Barbie.
So you'd like to be reappointed for Green Update? You want to just talk a minute about what your thoughts are this year, what changes you're recommending, and
I'll start briefly. We thought last year was great and pretty smooth, and we both learned a lot and kind of met all the players. So that was our major task, is to just fit in and not rock the boat too much and see what was going on. This year we have our major change is that we'd like to make it a one-day event like the rest of Vermont mostly, and the flow of traffic last year didn't prove to offer much the second day, and lot of people have told me that they feel like when there's 2 days, you kind of, well, I'll do it tomorrow, and then you just sometimes don't get around to it. So to help volunteers and to maximize efficiency, we'd like to kind of get it on track with the rest of Vermont, and also would save food waste and some of the redundancy of taking down educational materials and tables and ladders and things like that. So we want to do more education and have a little bit more efficient on the time frame.
Okay.
Kim also discovered a great program. Actually, we both bumped into it separately about recycling plastic films.
Yep.
And there's a company called Trex that upcycles plastic, things that we just generally can't recycle, like plastic bags, like pellet bags, bubble wrap, Ziploc bags, foils of all kinds, all the stuff you just can't recycle. And this company will upcycle it and make it into things like park benches and stuff. So we're going to try to apply to, as a challenge, as if we were a university or a college. They set up a program, but we're going to try to set up, as the town, take a challenge and set up bins and try to help people collect their plastic films, and then we'll cart it up to Hannaford's and send it off to the distribution center.
Part of Green Up Day or beyond that?
We just want to, I just said it because I think we're going to try to start it earlier, just generate enthusiasm, and then use Green Up Day just as another chance to do education, because we can't do anything new on Green Up Day, really. It's just too busy and frenetic, and it is what it is, but it's a great chance to see a lot of people and say, oh, by the way, we're doing this year, you know. So no big plans to change anything, just to be more efficient.
That sounds like it should be something done with our solid waste person,
Abby?
Abby,
Abby.
Abby, let's talk to Abby.
Yeah, I would, yeah, that's
who
true.
has a budget to do things.
Abby Folk.
Well, luckily this won't need a budget, but it might help. You know, we do have to cart the bags, we have to collect the bags in bins, which will be free, and then we have to cart them up to Hannaford, so that's about it.
Abby's very good with public awareness, so she's come in here with one of the younger Charlotte school kids that have all talked about what they do for recycling. She's really very good about it, so
Yes.
yeah, I'd say she'd love to hear support from another corner
Yeah.
that's helping.
And she was involved last year a lot, right, with us?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah, she did a lot, so.
So we're only allowed to do this for a one-year term?
Make it work.
So we'll do it anyway. So is there a motion?
Motion to approve Kim Finley and Ken Spencer as reappointment to the Green Up Day coordinators for a term ending April 30th, 2059. 2019.
Is that seconded?
I'll second it.
Any other comments you guys have? We certainly appreciate what you do. I mean, it's,
Thank you.
Well,
It is better.
we enjoy it, and it's a great Vermont tradition, so we're happy to help out.
Yeah, thanks to Junior, Lewis. and,
Oh, yeah.
I think all the people who do what they do, so.
Yeah, we're a small part
Yeah.
of the group. So thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks
Thank
for letting us do it another year.
Yeah.
all
Such a deal.
in favor of the
send you
motion,
the-
say aye. Aye. It's official.
We'll send you the tab for the donuts.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
We're a little ahead of schedule. Are you on the schedule?
Yeah, the cycle for CMT
Okay.
for 7:30.
We might be able to do that now. We'll see.
Okay.
Let me just see.
Sure.
Carrie's coming in or not?
Harry's not.
Oh, we can do Carrie.
Oh, Callie, yeah.
Callie, I meant to say.
Yeah, I am not sure whether she.
Why don't we can do,
Yeah, cycle.
okay, that's a request, right?
Yes.
Cycle 4 CMT, use of town roads.
Excuse me? Yeah, Chris, CHRIS, Ouellette, OUELLETTE.
You want to just?
Yeah, let me give you an
minute to
overview.
Give us the
So,
overview?
Yeah, so I see you guys every year right around this time,
Yes.
right? So this is our 5th annual Cycle for CMT event. And this is a cycling event fundraiser. And CMT stands for Charcot-Marie-Tooth. And that's a progressive neurological disorder in which there is no cure that affects, roughly about 2.8 million people worldwide, one of which is my 25-year-old nephew. So what we've done is, for the last 3 years, we've had the event at the Old Lantern and in the town of Charlotte. This would be the 4th year, consecutive year. And the venue really follows where we typically have about 125 to 150 participants, half of which are cyclists and half of which are not cyclists. So it's really open to the general public and family and friends. And what we ask is that those that cycle, roughly about anywhere from 50 to 75 people, choose one of 4 routes. And the routes are outlined there: a 6.5-mile ride, a 15-mile ride, a 25 or a 40-mile ride. And we ask the cyclists conduct those rides between the hours of 8 and 11:30 in the morning. And the typical population, most folks do, it's not a cycling race, that most people do a 6.5 or a 15 and 25-mile ride. And we ask people to be back by 11:30, and then that is typically followed by a catered meal at the Old Lantern, and then we bring in local experts and doctors, neurologists that give updates on CMT and the research. And the venue closes at 3 o'clock, in which we announce, we also have probably 50 to 60 silent auction items provided by local Vermont companies. We announce the winners of the silent auction at 3 o'clock, and that concludes the event. So it's pretty straightforward. We've just had really great success with people coming from out of town to see the town of Charlotte. And over the last 4 years for this event, we've actually, and all the money we raise goes towards research. We've raised $625,000 just for research over 4 years. So
For this event or other events?
for this event alone, yeah, since inception.
Wow.
And again, there is no cure, so I'm a board member of the CMT as well, the Charcot-Marie Tooth Association. And, we partner with leading pharmaceutical companies actually that are doing some really great things. And I'm hoping in the next 2 years we're actually conducting clinical trials and getting much closer to a cure. So, and the other big part of this event is not only the fundraising, but just spreading awareness, because a lot of people don't know what CMT is. And through that, we've been able to get some really great support locally and also as well as out of the state. So,
How does somebody enter this?
So what I'm working on now, we actually have a website. It's called www.cycle4cmt.com, and you can register on the site. And it gives a complete overview of all the routes and the venue, and it's pretty straightforward. And as we said, we ask you when you register, do you want to ride or not ride? What type of route would you like to do? And just provide that support.
So, do we have a summary of this information for all of the, we have lots of fundraisers, and I know a couple of cyclists that said, gee, I didn't know there's a ride, I would have showed up, in particular my son.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the recreation committee or somebody could summarize the dates and the contact information, so if they wanted to enter, we put it on our website.
Yeah. And what I usually do for advertising there as well is, obviously we probably have 3,000 individuals on our email database from people that have either registered or donated. It's usually in the Citizen a couple times before, a few times before the event. I've done local radio advertising. We actually had a commercial on WCAX last year. And but those type of thoughts would be great. And like I said, we welcome new individuals that want to learn something new and participate in a great cause.
Thinking not particularly about yours, nothing personal, but we have any number of these that we approve, and then there's so many of them, I almost wonder if we should have a cycling.
Yeah, I do put them, and I was just looking to see, this is the first one that's coming for this year, so I don't have them on the website yet, but I do list them on the homepage of the website, and I could put a link to.
You put them on the calendar, or do you want to have a sub-heading called Cycling Fundraising?
Cycling events, yeah.
And then you can add, that would be
Yeah, and I
good.
could give you, Dean,
A link.
complete write-up and information and links to the
Yeah.
site and all of that. We also place it on Green Mountain Bike Club and things like that. But yeah, I'm in probably a few months early. I think last year I was here in May.
Yeah.
And you had probably 3 or 4 different
Yeah.
events at the time I was here.
Right,
The
yeah.
MS ride, et cetera.
Exactly, yeah.
Right, so I'm a little early, but that's a great idea. I would definitely assist Dean with that, so.
Is there a motion?
Frank's turn.
I would make a motion to approve the application for Cycle for CMT, 5th annual event, on August 26, 2018.
I second that.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Did you, this goes through not only Charlotte, but it goes into Heinsberg
Correct.
and Shelburne.
The 40, only the 40. Yes, correct.
So, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea if you talked with them
Yeah.
to also see if they'd put a link on their website too.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I usually check in with individuals in Shelburne,
Yep.
right, in terms of just what we're doing, and they provided great support too. But yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Just try to get the local papers
Yeah,
and stuff.
definitely. Yeah, I've been really trying to push the local, and then I hand flyers out as well, and,
Yep.
do what we can to promote the event, so,
Good.
good. Well, thank you too, because we've just had great feedback of being able to have the event here the last 3 years, and people just really appreciate it, so it's a great area.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Good, thank you very
Good.
much.
Thank you. Chris? Callie, did I see you walk in?
I'm here.
Okay. You want to continue to work with the dogs?
I do.
Okay. Any good stories? All the dogs playing fair?
Yeah, I've gotten some calls about pigs recently, but they seem to be on the loose more often than not. But of course, that's not my purview.
I don't think we have a pig ordinance.
No, we don't.
That's why we changed it from animal to canine.
Hopefully we don't have a wild boar problem after a while.
Right. So everything, the terms and stipend, all that's working for you? And
Perfect.
The kennel, everything.
Oh yeah. Oh, are you talking about Comfort Hill?
Yep.
Yep. Everything's fine. They continue to be a great resource.
okay. Is there a motion to
A motion
approve,
to
Carrie? Kelly?
approve Callie Griswold for a 1-year term ending April 30th, 2019 as the K-9 Control Officer.
Second?
Any other things you want to say?
No, everything's fine. Everything seems to be working perfectly.
So what do you report in the, do you work with Dean or Mary when you have?
I'll email Dean occasionally when something comes up, but it's actually been pretty slow this winter. Recently, as it's been warming up, I'm getting a little bit more activity, but sometimes I'll get anonymous calls that don't follow through, which I also do report when they do come to fruition, but it's been a pretty slow winter, which is surprising. Last year it was pretty busy.
Good. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That was easy. We appreciate what you do.
Thanks,
Not
guys.
everybody wants to do that. Okay. So the next item is the highway access, 3 highway access permit. Jeremy, you talked to us earlier? Yeah. You may want to come front and center and talk to us a minute. We do have, you have a master and we have in our packet as well. So Frank and I were there and Dean Fritz.
Just for the minutes, Jeremy, you can just give
Yeah, of course. Jeremy Matoski with Trudell Consulting Engineers. I'm here representing Emanol Cherev and Susan Ballack, the landowners.
Okay. So, let's see, how do we, you have a request for 3 access to this parcel, which will be divided into 3 parcels.
Correct.
You said it's about 53 acres, did you say?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
I can give a little overview if you want.
Sure, why don't you give us,
Essentially, what we looked at today at the site visit, it's about 53 acres. Everybody's pretty familiar with the property. It's directly west of the parking lot for Mount Philo. It's the land that you see on the west side of Mount Philo Road and bounded by the State Park Road to the that would be to the south, and then so Kimmel Brook flows through the property, as do a couple of other small unnamed tributaries, and it's separated out through those natural drainage divides into a series of meadows. And the landowner, the previous landowner held this land for many, many years and opted to sell the property to Susan and Emanol for the purposes of their primary residence. And their intent is to hopefully construct a horse farm on this property. And they also wanted to, in order to help fund that construction, sell off 2 5-acre lots. And that was the maximum that the seller would allow the property to have, would be 3 homes in total, even though density-wise it could support quite a few more. So we did an extensive wetlands and environmental constraints survey as part of the sketch plan application, and went through a series of site visits, series of sketch plan hearings, and came up with the design that we have in front of you now, and that generated the locations of the 3 curb cuts. And as we discussed at the site visit, normally a property can be served by 1 curb cut, but due to wetlands and drainage divides on this property, as well as the owners and planning commission's desire to keep structures in aesthetically appropriate places on the property, we really tried to locate the curb cuts that we have today. So one being the primary owner's residence on lot 3, which would be off of State Park Road, and then 2 of them, one for the barn, and that would share lot 1, and then 1 for lot 2. And again, as we saw out there, there's some fairly substantial drainage divides that isolate these portions of the property. So,
This is a subdivision then, correct?
it's a 3-lot minor subdivision.
Okay, so you started out with 1 lot.
Correct.
Okay.
We talked, Fritz, that Junior was on State Park Road and saw where the access, the cutout is, and it's an unposted road. A non-posted paved road in Vermont is 50 miles per hour. Therefore, you need 500 feet of view for cars entering onto the road, and Junior calculated 380 feet. So
I want to go back and look. I did find when I went back and looked at our maps, we had 415. So I'd like to double check with him what we end up with. But we did also see out there, there's approximately 100 feet of additional site distance we could pick up easily and not impact any wetlands. So what I'd like to propose is that we relocate that State Park Road access as far to the east as possible without impacting Class 2 wetlands. Which
And
I
east
believe,
is safe.
And east is safe
from the
all the way,
wetland.
well more than 500 feet that way. I believe we can get very close, if not more than the 500 he's looking for.
Dean, you mentioned that this goes before Planning Commission. Our piece of it is the access.
Right.
You were wondering if they ought to do their thing first, or what do you feel?
I mean, excuse me, the typical process and the policy and procedure which the select board approved does have the highway access permits between sketch plan review and final plan review. The applicant has been to sketch plan review, and they're scheduled for final plan review on April 5th. I initially wondered about waiting until the Planning Commission has reviewed this plan, because there's some complications as far as, well, the wetlands, as Jeremy mentioned, and some of the natural resources, the traffic on Mount File Road, and perhaps aesthetic impacts. When we were out there, it did seem like the proposed accesses are pretty much the most, or perhaps the only real possibilities for entering the property. So it may be that the Planning Commission is going to be fine with those. I do think that as far as the possibility for relocating the access on State Park Road, and then there was also talk at the site visit of the utility pole being moved, that we it may be appropriate for the select board to wait for a final actual specific location before approving it, just so you can have a very specific measurement to approve, so that it's clear, everybody's clear what the access, where the accesses are. So with that said, it's, I guess I would recommend at least waiting for the State Park Road access to be dialed in a little bit further, and just hearing back, I guess, from Jeremy about the utility pole on Mount Philo Road.
Yeah, I actually looked at that one too as well, Dean, and I agree. I mean, our intent was if we have to move a pole, we'll move it because we want to obviously respect the wetlands. But I took a closer look at our site plan, and there may be 10 feet that we can wiggle that and keep that pole, so and not impact the buffer. So if we can slide things a few feet, that was the first time I'd been able to get the actual location staked. So seeing that in the field, I think we can adjust them slightly and do a better job calculating the exact location.
So what do you guys think? You want to defer, or?
But if I could ask a question, again, it's really kind of a chicken and an egg thing. We did do two sketch plan hearings with the Planning Commission and went through a lot of talk about how this property would be laid out. And I wouldn't mind having at least some sort of not assurance, but some sort of indication from the select board that the 3 curb cuts are okay, because if for some reason you said, no, I only want 1, I mean, it has major wetland implications, major redesign implications, and I wouldn't want to go through the entire final plat process only to come back and find out, no, you guys don't like it, and you can go back to the Planning Commission and figure out how to fix it. So that's my only concern with kind of the round and round.
One of the things that always kind of confuses me is that if our planning commission determines that there are 3 lots, I mean, you can't necessarily deny somebody a curb cut to their legal lot.
Well, part of the planning process and the permitting process is to approve an access plan. And it's, that part of that is determining, does each lot get its own access, or is there a shared access? In this case, I think it makes sense to have 3 accesses, but in general.
Yeah, to allow the disjointed process that you just described, it's possible that the planning commission will say, fine, 3 lots, and then the select board could be ornery and say, no, we're only going to give you 1 access, and then, well, what do? You already approved the lot, and I think as a future thing, we should look into the obligation to provide the access, that if somebody goes through all this and gets an approved lot, I think we have a responsibility to provide access to that lot, or you're basically in a public taking situation, which I don't want to get into.
Well, that's the reason why your role in this is between sketch plan and final, so that it's not a final subdivision until you've weighed in on where the accesses are.
And can I ask one follow-up question? Do you guys have the ability to approve it with conditions that?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say the 2 conditions I see: abide by the regulations for the placement of the poles, power poles, and adhere to our road commissioners recommend for the site, 500-foot site clearance for that access. Those are the only 2 conditions that I'm aware of.
And that makes sense to me. And I'd like to go out there with Junior and, move the stake and say, that's where it's going to stay. And then we'll locate it and we'll move on.
I guess the only thing I would say is, and I agree with that, it's not clear how much additional site distance there will be. It could be up to 500 feet, but it could be less.
I'd be happy to provide that in an engineered manner.
But I guess as far as making a condition that, the condition could be they'll move it as far east as possible, either to pick up the 500 feet or just stay out of the wetland.
Well, to me, to satisfy the road commissioners, I mean.
We don't know how far east that would be.
Well, they're going to measure that,
But I think they also want to stay out of the wetland, so.
Agreed, but if you go east, you're getting even further away from the wetland. West is the wetland.
Well,
There is a limiting amount that I
that's
can
true.
go that way
What
too.
they're saying is if he's only, let's just say that he was 320 feet, like,
And I can pick up
and
100.
he can pick up 100 by taking it, moving it as close to the wetlands to the east.
Yeah.
It might still be
He
420.
it may only be 420. That's what,
I think we're gonna have more than that, but you're right. That's my concern is,
So what are your thoughts then? Do we?
well, I agree that it's with the wetlands that you have, on the State Park Road driveway, would be probably a condition that it be moved as far to the east and as possible to get the greatest sight distance up to 500 feet and stay out of the wetlands to the east. I mean, he's got a small window there to move it. I mean, that would get you as close to the 500 feet, if not the 500 feet.
Another option, maybe it takes more time, and that is do a traffic or a speed survey, because I don't think the traffic goes 50 miles an hour on that 1 mile road. So you take 85% of the, is it average speed?
85th percentile.
85% of average speed or tops? Is it 85 of 85?
The 85th percentile of all speeds.
I see. So I think all the things going to happen is the speed's going to come down. But that's, I guess, unrelated.
I know how we've done those before, and I guess I'd rather take my chances with the wetlands folks if I have to, if I'm honest.
So are you okay with making a motion for this then, Frank?
We're making it subject to the approval of the road commissioner.
Yeah.
So if you and Junior come to an agreement, I'm in an agreement.
Okay. And the power poles.
And the power poles.
Okay. So somebody want to make it?
So make a motion to approve the highway access permit.
I think there's 3 separate ones, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be HAP 18-01, 02, and 03. And which one is the one with the, which one is the one on Mount Philo Road? 3?
Oh, on Mount Philo?
Yeah.
There's 2 of them.
01 is the far north, and 02 is the one that's shared.
So the shared one, we don't want to move the pole, or
Or the driveway would avoid it.
the driveway will be adjusted to avoid moving the pole.
I think we can accomplish that.
And on the State Park Road access, which is, which one? 1?
3 that I got.
3.
3? 3 shall be moved to the east to get the 500 feet or to reach the edge of the wetlands delineation.
I'll second that.
Upon approval of
The road
Junior, the road commissioner.
So you second that?
Yes.
Are there any other questions?
Just
Yes.
request for clarification. So for HAP 1802, the shared driveway, moving that to the north
Correct.
about 10 or 20 feet.
I think it's about 10.
Okay. And HAP 1803, the motion is to, if it gets to 500 feet before it hits the wetland, that's where it will be. If it doesn't get to 500 feet, it will just go as far as the 50-foot buffer to the wetland.
Yes.
Yeah.
As approved,
As
approved by
approved.
Junior.
Well, what,
I'm assuming that Junior's gonna sit down and say, be reasonable and say this is the farthest we can go.
I think the select board has that authority, not Junior. Junior gives you the site distance.
But let's do this. I'll get 500 feet.
Okay.
regardless.
Well, Junior's gotta make sure about the size of the culvert and anything, if it has to have one.
There's no culvert needed.
There's no culvert in this one either.
None up here.
Okay.
So the motion is clear? You're satisfied?
Even if it impacts a wetland buffer, I think I can get to 500 feet.
Okay. Any other comments from anybody? All in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you for walking us
Appreciate your time.
around.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks for the input, Dean. Like you said, it's chicken and the egg. See what comes
Yeah.
first.
There's something wrong with that process. I haven't put my finger on it yet. but-
This is a request for a refund of a highway access permit. Gil Barlow.
Right, so Gil Barlow is applying for a subdivision. He went through sketch plan review, and at that point, the driveway was located, he has an existing house, existing driveway. At that point, the driveway was located as a separate curb cut. And he submitted a highway access permit application that actually shows the proposed driveway where the current driveway is, the existing driveway. It was accepted by somebody else, staff, and he paid his $100. And once I reviewed it, I saw that it's not proposing a new access. So he doesn't really need a highway access permit.
I mean, was the work done by zoning? Was the work done, or was it an error on our part?
I think the error was our part to accept an application that there's no permit needed.
Okay. What road is it on? Or was it on?
Mount Filer Road.
So is there a motion to refund the access
I'll
permit
make a
application?
motion to refund $100 for the highway access permit application to Gil Barlow based on an error in accepting the permit request.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're at the 8 o'clock item. So we're here to talk about the modification of the job description of the zoning administrator, who will start on Monday. And it's an adjustment of work tasks from the town planner to the zoning administrator. So do you want to kind of walk us through these changes then?
Yeah. What was discussed was having the zoning administrator staff the zoning board for conditional use and variance applications. The town planner would continue to staff the zoning board for appeals of a zoning administrator decision. So, for the most part, considering there's very few appeals, the zoning administrator would be the primary staff person for the zoning board, would take all the duties that are currently under the town planner job description and move those to the zoning administrator position, as well as the Thompson's Point Design Review Committee, which is for permits on Thompson's Point.
And the 40-hour work.
The position was approved at 40 hours, or was offered at 40 hours.
Yep. The zoning administrator will be doing the Thompson's Point.
Yep.
Okay. What do you think, Frank?
Well, one, you know my opinion on having the ZA staffing the zoning board. Huh?
I don't know what it is.
My opinion is I don't agree with having the zoning administrator staff the zoning board, but they're, to circumvent, my main concern is they're gonna have the town planner do the appeals. I don't know, I'm not real thrilled with it. And the other thing is that now we're adjusting our town planner's job description. And we're not, I mean, when he was hired for that job. So now you're actually removing stuff from what he was hired for. Not saying that he's not doing the same stuff that he was hired for. His skills and his responsibilities are the same. But you're taking away part of the workload. So would that take away part of the hours?
I think what we found, which we found even when Janine and Brittany were in that office, is 75 hours isn't enough for that office. Previously, Tom Mansfield, Gloria Ward, myself, all came up to about 85 hours. And when Janine and Brittany were there, total of 75 hours, it wasn't enough. Janine was working from home. And what we found is 75 hours now with Joe and Daryl. When Joe was here, Daryl's been working overtime. So that position, town planner, as it's currently configured, is too much for 40 hours. And we haven't found that balance of having two positions that are less than that each position is less than 40 hours, or at 40 hours. So what, Daryl has averaged probably 45 hours. So taking away some of the workload, giving it to the zone administrator would hopefully bring town planner down to 40 hours and bring the zone administrator up to 40 hours. And that's, as I said, previous staff also couldn't make it work at 75 hours total.
Well, and that's why I would always fought to get a administrative assistant in there.
But that hasn't been approved.
And, yeah,
So what we're trying to do is eliminate the overtime for planning, keep it 40 hours, some of the work did shift, not hire a third person. We have 80 hours for the 40 and 40 as defined. With not anticipating hiring a third person.
I think that's a good idea. I don't think we need a third person. I'd like to stay away from a third person.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing you have is you also have the town planner and now the zoning administrator that are gonna be staffing meetings at night. And if they're on 40 hours, they may not, they're gonna be away from the office for a certain amount of hours. And I don't know how the staffing is gonna go, but it was, one had Monday off, one had Friday off.
That's changed
So,
as of Monday.
Well, I suspect they'll work that out.
We're gonna man the
And
windows.
if for some reason something happens when there's nobody there, I don't think it's gonna be the end of the world.
Robert?
Why, at this stage, after the town plan has been finished and passed, why wouldn't that free up Daryl for numerous more hours or other work that get done?
because the town, the planning commission, before the town plan was even voted in, we're already having Daryl work on amendments to the town plan
Correct.
and
Well, that's ended.
zoning working on amendments to the town plan already after it's been voted in, before it was voted in. And then they're working on zoning regulations along with doing their other duties of the planning commission doing their,
Daryl has to your point, a spreadsheet. There were 30 issues that came up during these hearings. So we approved the town plan, we approved the baseline that got voted at town meeting. And to your point now, we're considering it a living document, as it should be, to work through these issues and negotiate with the different points of view, et cetera. So I think it's going to be fairly heavy activity, to update the plan.
I was just wondering why they didn't give them 30 days to catch up.
I proposed that they should have a budget to do all that stuff they're gonna do.
Yeah.
But they didn't, so.
Who would have a budget?
A town plan implementation. The list of things that are required to be done according to their, what do you want to call it, matrix of who's
They have a
doing
matrix,
what?
yeah.
I said, this is going to take somebody a lot of time
To go through that,
to go
right?
through that. And I had said that I thought there should be, if that was the plan, there should be a budget for people who are going to do that.
Well,
But-
at one point, we had Janine working on the town
So
plan.
there is no increased budget, but certainly I recognize the amount of work that needs to be done to do that.
But don't you think the planning commission will debate these like they were doing before? Take them one by one?
Sure. There were things that, someone was going to do this report or this was going to be investigated, which were things that, when I read it, I didn't think the planning commission members were probably going to be doing that. That'll
That
be
kind of work.
delegated to somebody, and I, can see Daryl staying busy, let's put it that way.
Yes.
If he's working 45 hours, where's the extra money coming?
He's working 40 hours.
They didn't.
You just said 45.
They didn't need the extra money because they took away the administrative assistant, the zoning administrator and the town planner being moved to 40 hours. And even when Joe was on 35 and Daryl was on 45, they were still within the budget that was approved because the money for the administrative assistant was divided up between them.
And that money will be enough to make it to June 30th.
Well, they're both
That would be
budgeted at 40 hours.
that'd be a question for Dean.
Going forward, as of Monday, they'll both be 40 hours.
I didn't hear you.
Starting Monday, both positions will be 40 hours.
Correct, but so will that be enough money to make it through to June 30th? That's left remaining in the budget.
It was budgeted at 40 hours.
What he's saying is, so we've had a vacancy, so Lee was here. Is he above or below with, he charges more, but he was putting less hours in?
It's far more money.
Right, we had budgeted for a third person for this fiscal year,
which
and
we
we haven't,
didn't do.
which we didn't do.
So you think to his point, we're under budget, so we can get through from now until June 30th and pretty much stay on budget?
I think we'll get through it. There's also, I've been asked to look at the possibility of making the positions exempt, meaning they're not entitled to overtime pay. So they have to meet the requirement for Federal Labor Standards Act, but if they do, then they can work as many hours as they need to without getting overtime.
You'll get it done in 40 that.
Or 35.
So the answer is yes, there is enough money remaining in the fiscal year budget to make June 30th. At our present rates is projected.
I believe so, yes.
So you want to, are we in a position to make a motion to take one at a time?
Now, has this been, I don't know what, has Daryl agreed to this?
Yes.
I didn't talk to Daryl.
I did, and he is looking forward to, not that he doesn't like the zoning board, but he's looking forward to not having the extra work.
I just don't want to take away something from from somebody that has been hired for a certain job and then we're changing it midstream without them having an opportunity to
Right.
chime in.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm sure he does too, but he's okay with the change.
Okay.
Motion to approve the modification of the job descriptions for the zoning administrator slash sewage control officer slash E911 coordinator slash health officer. As, I don't know, as outlined, do we have a date on this?
The draft.
March 12th, it's on the back. The draft, March 12th,
On the
2018.
draft dated March 12, 2018.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Are there any other questions for this? Comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So now the other one, town planner, has those tasks deleted. And that's also dated March 12th draft today.
Why don't I have that one?
You want to see that one?
So make a motion to approve the job description for the town planner dated draft for March 12th, 2018.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on that topic? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now, what do I do with the agenda? Okay. We've done the minutes. There's some warrants to be signed. One warrant. Are there any other topics to be brought before the select board?
I'd move that we change the clock to reflect the current time.
I'm looking at it over there, that one's all right. Okay,
I looked at that and said, no, we're not that fast.
is there a motion to adjourn?
Why, sure. Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ahead of schedule.
Man, that's a record.